It was a calm morning in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traoré, known for his simplicity and closeness to the people, had just left a meeting at the presidential palace. Choosing to walk through the city center alone, he used this time for reflection away from the official protocols, observing daily life firsthand. As he crossed a busy square, something drew his attention. Beneath the shade of a tree, an elderly man in worn clothes sat on a makeshift bench made of wooden crates. In his hands, an old book, which he read slowly, focused despite the surrounding noise and activity. Traoré paused. There was something familiar about the man. As he got closer, he realized who it was: Professor Adama, his former high school philosophy teacher. This was the man who had once inspired countless young Burkinab to dream big and fight for justice. Now here he was living in poverty on the streets. Traoré felt a wave of emotion. He remembered Adama's lessons in ethics, on dignity, on the value of each human life. "Professor Adama," he called gently, his voice thick with emotion. The man looked up, surprised. When he recognized Traoré, his eyes welled up. He tried to stand, but his legs trembled. Traoré rushed to support him, taking him gently by the arms. "Mr. President," Adama said, clearly embarrassed, "I didn't expect to see you here." "Don't call me president," Traoré replied, softly but firmly. "To me, you will always be my teacher." Adama looked down, trying to hide his tears. "Things have changed since then, Ibrahim. I'm no longer the person you once knew. You'll always be the one who taught me the meaning of dignity," Traoré answered, holding the professor's hands. "But tell me, how did things come to this?" Adama hesitated. "My house was taken over due to debt. My pension isn't enough to cover basic needs anymore. I tried to continue teaching privately, but my health doesn't allow it." Traoré listened in silence. He felt a growing mix of anger and sadness. He knew that Adama's story wasn't unique. Many educators who had devoted their lives to building the nation were now being overlooked by the system. "Come with me," Traoré said, helping him up. "Let's talk somewhere more comfortable." Still, deeply affected by what he had seen, Traoré guided his former teacher to an official car waiting nearby. This was no ordinary meeting. It was a wake-up call, a reminder of the social disparities that still existed in Burkina Faso. Despite progress, on the way to a small neighborhood bank, where Traoré often handled personal matters, he made a decision. He would act starting now. He asked the driver to stop in front of the bank and entered with Adama inside. The bank manager, a young man named Sosine, was visibly surprised. "Mr. President," he said, hurrying to greet him. "Unexpected honor. How can I assist you?" Traoré gestured toward Adama. "This is Professor Adama, one of the country's great educators. He helped shape the minds of entire generations. He's with us today because something needs to be addressed, something that's been wrong for too long." Sosine looked puzzled. "Of course, Mr. President. What would you like me to do?" Traoré met his eyes and spoke with purpose. "I want you to open a special account. One dedicated to retired teachers in Burkina Faso, one's account that guarantees they will never again face the conditions Professor Adama has endured. And I want this initiative to begin today." The manager hesitated. It was clear he was considering the implications. But seeing Traoré's resolve, he nodded. Double quotes, "Yes, Mr. President, we will make it happen." Adama, who had stayed quiet until then, finally spoke. "Mr. President, I don't know what to say. I don't deserve this." Traoré rested a hand on his shoulder. "You deserve much more, Professor. You gave your life to shaping minds and building this country. Now it's our turn to support you." While Sosine began handling the administrative process, Traoré stood beside his former teacher, more determined than ever to turn this encounter into lasting change. Traoré sat beside Adama on a modest sofa at the bank. In that moment, he realized this wasn't just about honoring one teacher. It was about acknowledging all the overlooked contributors who had helped shape the country. "Professor," Traoré said quietly, his tone steady and sincere, "you taught me that real wealth is found in knowledge and dignity. Today, we're taking a small but meaningful step to help ensure that others like you can live with the same dignity." Adama shook his head gently. his hands trembling slightly as he held onto his cap. "I always believed you would accomplish great things, Ibrahim," he said. "But I never imagined something so heartfelt, so grounded." Traoré smiled, recalling the lessons he had learned from Adama many years before. "I learned from the finest professor, and now it's my turn to give back." Meanwhile, word of Traoré's unannounced visit to the bank spread quickly throughout the city. Both employees and customers discreetly captured the moment on their phones, posting it on social media. Hashtags like #DignityForTeachers, #HonorEducators, and Ibrahim Traoré for Teachers began to trend, sparking widespread discussions on how educators are treated after retirement. At the conclusion of the visit, Minister Sustin shared an initial plan. With President Traoré, "Mr. President," he began, "we propose a dedicated account for retired teachers, with added benefits funded by the government. We'll also reassess current pension schemes to make sure no one is excluded." Traoré nodded with approval. "This is only the start. I want this initiative expanded nationwide. Every teacher should be acknowledged for their contribution." Adama, still visibly moved, rose slowly to his feet. "Mr. President," he said, his voice heavy with emotion, "I have only one thing to say: thank you. Not just for me, but for all of us." Traoré embraced him gently. "Thank you, Professor, for everything."
Ow.
The president's decision to create a special account for retired teachers quickly gained national attention. The story of his heartfelt reunion with Adama, a once homeless former teacher, resonated deeply across Burkina Faso. Within hours, footage and photos of the bank visit flooded social media, igniting a wave of respect and support for the president. Hashtags like #DignityForTeachers, #EducatorsMatter, and Ibrahim Traoré leadership continued circulating online, emphasizing the need to honor those who had dedicated their lives to teaching. Many citizens began sharing personal stories of teachers who had influenced them, while others urged the government to extend similar support to other overlooked groups such as nurses and elderly farmers. Later, during a press briefing at the presidential palace, Traoré addressed the nation directly. In Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traoré stood surrounded by retired educators, including Professor Adama, who now appeared healthier and more confident after receiving medical attention and proper nutrition. "Professor Adama," Traoré began, his voice breaking slightly, "is more than an individual. He represents everything that has gone overlooked in our current system. A nation that neglects its teachers sets itself up for failure. That must change." Then announced a new initiative, Appreciation of Unsung Heroes, a government program, aimed at recognizing and supporting all individuals who have quietly contributed to the country's growth. "This is not only about teachers," he clarified. "It's about nurses, farmers, factory workers, every person who has helped build this country. They deserve not only our respect, but our protection." The audience responded with enthusiastic applause. Many were visibly emotional. Seated beside him, Adama slowly stood and addressed the crowd. "Mr. President," he said, his voice unsteady but clear, "what you are doing goes beyond policy. It's a gesture of care for our people, and I believe it will truly make a difference, as it already has in my life." In the days that followed, implementation of the Valuing Unsung Heroes program began across Burkina Faso. Retired teachers started receiving enhanced support, and mobile health units were dispatched to rural areas to care for elderly citizens long forgotten by public services. In a small village in the interior, a retired teacher named Fatou became one of the first beneficiaries. Her pension was updated. She gained access to free healthcare, something she had never imagined possible. "I always told my students that education shapes the future," she said in a local interview, "but I never thought someone would remember me when I needed help." Thank you, President Traoré, for restoring our dignity. International coverage soon followed. Global media outlets highlighted Traoré's initiative as a standout example of people-centered leadership. Articles praised his ability to transform deeply personal encounters into meaningful public policy. "He's not just leading a country," wrote a columnist for The Guardian, "he's helping restore the soul of a nation." His focus on dignity and equality sets an example for leaders everywhere. In the months after the program's launch, Burkina Faso began to experience visible social change. The effort not only improved the living conditions of many elderly citizens, it also sparked a sense of unity and recognition across the nation for those who once felt invisible. The program gave them back a voice. A large ceremony was held in the center of Ouagadougou to honor the progress made. Hundreds attended, including retired educators, aging healthcare workers, long-serving farmers, and students inspired by their stories. President Traoré addressed the gathering, dressed simply in traditional attire. Looking over the crowd, he paused, visibly moved. Today, he said, we are not here to list statistics or policies. We are here to honor those who built this country with their hands and their knowledge. You are the true foundation of Burkina Faso. He paused, letting the message settle. Then he continued, when I met Professor Adama on the streets of our capital, I asked myself, how did we allow this? How did we forget those who gave so much? Today we begin to make that right. And this is only the beginning. From the front row, Adama stood once again. Though he moved slowly, his expression was proud and steady. Mr. President, he said, you've returned something we believed was lost, our dignity. More importantly, you've reminded us that leadership must, above all, be human. Crowd broke into applause. Some were in tears. Traoré embraced Adama not as a political gesture, but as a human moment shared between student and teacher. As the ceremony came to a close, a child handed Traoré a small notebook wrapped in African fabric. Inside, a message was written: heroes never die. They live in our hearts. Traoré smiled and tucked the gift away. It wasn't just a keepsake, it was a reminder that even the smallest act of kindness can lead to real change. As the crowd began to leave, Traoré approached Adama and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. Teacher, he said softly, you guided me in my youth, and even now, you continue to guide me, showing the world what truly matters. Adama smiled, eyes bright. And you, Ibrahim, have become a student who surpasses his master. You're changing our country, and I couldn't be more proud. It's there. The story quickly became a global emblem of how compassion and respect can shape a nation. For many, it was more than a political achievement. It was a reminder that leadership grounded in humility and purpose can bring lasting transformation. Reflecting on the moment, a journalist scribbled a final note in his book. Today in Burkina Faso, I witnessed the future of an Africa that honors its past, values its heroes, and builds bridges of dignity for all.